on Oktoberfest?
I enjoyed it. That was being the first time I went there. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised. I don't know if I've just missed it in years past or what, but
I've always known that it was going on, but just never had the inclination to go. And this is the first year I checked it out.
yeah, we had 2 soccer games and then a flag football game, but then on our way back through, you know, like I live just down the street from the Purple Park, and so as we were driving to the house, the car was pulling off of one of the street parkings right there on Pipkin, so I pulled right in. And,
Nice.
my kids had a blast. They wanted to stay all day long. I was like, we've been in the sun for like the last 6 hours. Let's get out of here. It was hot on Saturday.
Real nice that day, yeah. Did you guys get your free pumpkins?
Oh, yeah.
Pumpkin
Sure.
lid, yeah.
We weren't even gonna do it, we were leaving, and the kid's like, yeah, there's more, all right, go ahead.
Yeah.
You gotta carry it. It was fun.
That guy was Brad Klein. He was on the opposite side of the real estate transaction when we bought our house over in Rockford. So like, that guy has like a photogenic memory. So every time he sees me, he's like, "Hey Ken, how's it going?"
Oh,
Like,
wow,
"Hey, I
really?
can barely remember your name. I can barely remember
I
my
guess
name."
that's pretty good in that business though, to have that.
Yeah, yes, it
good
is.
memory.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Howdy.
Stay warm. See you later.
Yeah, I was surprised that we got there, I don't know, 2 o'clock or so, and I mean, just people everywhere. Yeah. But, you know, my kids, you know, stay around for a couple minutes for their little games, but then they'd go to the next one, and they were just surfing whichever line was the shortest one, and, you know,
It was
just never
already
very long.
it was already crowded at the beginning. I mean, that's like you were there right away. And also,
We
right?
showed up early just because.
We were hungry and wanted to eat some food.
Well, and normally the beer runs out quickly, but this year they had extra beer, so they had 2 extra kegs, and they actually had a CO2 system to pour it, so.
So the HOA's having another party.
Yeah, well, but they were done. I mean, I was about ready to leave, and then all my like soccer dad friends showed up, and so I got sucked into staying later, and then they ran out of beer before they were done. So we went through a lot of beer, six kegs, and 2.5 hours. So-
I was there for the whole meeting.
Oh, you were?
Mhm.
Yeah. Any conclusions? It was awesome.
Just that, you know, we've mitigated a lot on our side, and that Boulder County is going to be working on their side.
Yeah, it's weird to see that.
And they had a cow disappeared down a hole
Over there,
from in a
across the
mining,
street here.
You guys taking the detour?
you know,
to
what do
get
they call
around
it, a
that complex now? You have to
sub,
go, like, all the way down through the
subservience?
construction,
No,
like,
sub,
back and up around, like,
I don't
all the
know,
way
where
past
where an
Chicago
old
and
mining
up to the old
hole and
Chicago.
the
Oh,
land
actually,
shifts a
I did
little
get
and it
superior liquor.
creates
Yeah,
a
me too. I was
hole
like,
in a cow.
Maybe I should have done this early.
What is it? I thought I would have been closer just to walk underneath McCaslin.
I don't know, I didn't ask, I didn't.
Than to get out and drive over there.
Yeah. Learning moment.
Yeah.
How's it going? Good, man. How are you?
I gotta think those businesses aren't real crazy about that right now.
No, but it should pay off.
They're gonna
in a
love
year,
it when
so.
the hotels in
Yeah.
there and the.
Well, my friend that around the time told me that the path is now done behind Old Chicago, like, that goes from,
I went by there this weekend and it's done, but it's not over. It still has some tape on it, but it looks like it's like the concrete right there, so that'd be cool. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm trying, but it's not connecting.
You've done a lot of mountain biking. Have you ever done any East Coast riding?
a little bit, well, I've done a little bit in West Virginia, a little bit in Pennsylvania.
Okay. I was gonna ask if you've been to the Kingdom Trails in Vermont.
I haven't, I've not been that far north ever.
Okay.
All the East Coast riding I've ever done is hard because it's so different than here. It's really rocky and it's not long climbs, but they're short and steep. And so you're just always either going straight up or straight down, straight up or straight down, which is different than here, where you climb for 4 or 5 miles and you turn around and drive, go down 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it because over here at Chanchik, there's almost an identical vista up in this mountain biking place in Vermont. And up at the top, they have a bunch of chairs and they bring in taco trucks on the weekends and it's like an event. And people are hanging out there and it's also paying them to make a little sledding over here on Chanchik.
Sean was talking to me about that.
Did it?
Yeah, I would.
You always go to those.
I've taken my kids there.
Yeah.
Above the soccer field or on the other side, like the steeper side?
South of the school, so,
Okay, yeah.
like almost up against the houses.
Yeah, and down into where that soccer field is.
Yeah, exactly.
now, Or not Craig Bridge, but that's actually probably good.
Yeah,
I see
that's
some,
run out at the
some
end.
kid, I see some kids go over, like a little bit further west, like just on the other side of the trail, and some tracks on
Yeah.
that.
That's what I was about to say. You can see it when you're driving up the chasm. It's right, basically where the trail starts to go back up to the east. They slid on the little knob that's just kind of southwest.
Okay. Just doesn't like you today, huh?
No, it's,
When we get to this, we could switch it over to my computer. I could pull it up when you
we might have to do that. I mean, it's just not, when I'm impatient, it probably doesn't help. I'll try restarting it and see, you know, the cure-all.
All right, so in the meantime, might as well get going. So we'll start off introductions. Ken Lish, Chair.
Ryan Welch, committee member.
Matt Morris, committee member.
Joel White, member.
Allison James, town staff.
Sorry. Perfect. And I heard from Sean, Tracy, and Patricia that none of them would be able to attend this evening, and Trustee Pennington is hoping to be here around 7:15ish. No public, so no public comment. First agenda item, OSAC members. JJ Ballou has resigned from the committee, so we are now minus one person. However, 2 board meetings ago, we did have a person already interview for that open slot. The board hasn't yet voted on that person, but I assume they'll probably approve that and we'll have a full committee by our next meeting. So, very quick turnaround that time. Unfortunately, we have so few people who probably will need to do this over email, but the next agenda item, we need to once again reschedule our November meeting.
And I have a quick update on that.
Oh, perfect.
I went ahead and reserved the community room at the sports stable for the same time and the same night as we usually meet. So if that's okay with everyone, we would just be meeting across the street at the sports stable, and the community room is on the second floor. And I can kind of meet up with everybody in the front and walk you up to the room.
So that would be November 9th then?
Correct.
And there's no problem from the town side with doing that?
No, I reserved it for us in case everybody thought it was a good idea. So we have it. It's booked.
Okay. Well,
And just to reiterate, the reason we're doing that is because the elections, everything's going to be set up here for about a week, so we have to move.
Is that the one date we originally moved?
As usual,
Yep.
just
What,
different
where did we
locations.
move it originally? Do you remember?
it was going to be on November 2nd.
Okay, that's why.
Yeah, so we can no longer do November 2nd. So what I'll do is I'll shoot an email out to the group later tonight so everyone can weigh in. But we might as well just go back to the original night and do it over the sports stable. I'll throw the other dates out there. We have a few options, but I think it would make more sense just to go over there. Alrighty. Breezing through this, the next discussion item is the equestrian event. Allison, do you want to give us an update?
I do. So right now, Mr. Sawtell and I have been working on the insurance paperwork.
Yep. Oh, and just to let everyone know, the board did approve the $250 cap for insurance that we proposed.
So we've been working on the insurance paperwork. He gave me a quick bulleted list of items that he would, that he he and his daughter would like to teach about the horses, such as safety, tack, clothing that riders could wear, trail information. And so we've started developing the marketing material, and we've also talked about pushing it out, and another date that's convenient for them is October 30th. Just due to the insurance process and marketing and being able to have time to market it to potential participants. So that's the update for the program.
Perfect. Has he mentioned whether he's going to need volunteers from OSAC to assist?
I think we did talk about it.
Yeah.
I know that Tracy had said that she would like to volunteer. I did.
Yeah, I think Tracy and
notify
Sean.
her, this week that we were going to be pushing the date out. So anybody else that was thinking about doing it, look at the calendar for October 30th.
Okay. I'll mention that in the email that I'll send out later to give people a heads up. Any questions for anybody about that?
So, I mean, at this point, we're going forward. I mean, no other hurdles we know of at this point?
Nope. Board approval, insurance paperwork's getting signed,
It
and
just depends on what the feedback is from the insurance. If it's under our amount, we're golden. If
Okay.
it's not, then
I guess that was kind of my question, was I didn't know if we already knew that we were definitely under the 250, but we're filling out paperwork to find out what they then will tell us our rate would be.
correct.
Okay.
perfect. All right. So last meeting we went over newly proposed Rocky Mountain Greenway trail alignments. Since then, new alignments have been proposed. So we'll go over those real quick. Perfect. Actually, Allison, can we zoom in on this a little bit more?
Where's Sean? Don't we always need Sean? I just like to turn it over to
That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so they're not incredibly different, but to point out what has changed, in the last version I showed you guys, right over here where I'm showing used to be a trail connection, they have removed that and instead moved it up to this area. And it's hard to see because it's yellow, but they've got another trail up here. That was not what was proposed originally. From what I can tell, the idea from that is to make it so there's a connection to this proposed multi-purpose building. So there's still going to be two connections here off of Indiana. They're just now further apart than they were previously. The trail that is most meaningful to us is going to be this connection point right here. This is the Coyote Ridge area. This is Rock Creek. So the change that was made on that trail is it used to go right here. Instead, they are no longer proposing that, and they're having us continue, having the trail continue up Indiana, and then...
Is that Indiana or Sims?
oh, no, you're right. Sorry, Sims. Well, actually, hold on. Let me take that back.
Indiana, right?
Yeah, that's Indiana. You're right. So they're actually just extending this trail that they would have to create and then cutting it back rather than having a more direct route. It wasn't explained incredibly well why they're doing that, but it's not that material of a change. And besides that, there's not a whole heck of a lot of changes. There were some alignment changes down over here. It used to go a little bit closer to the reservoir, but now kind of shoots off this way. And I think that was about it.
So, I mean, it looks like there's parallel trails from, I guess, Indiana, almost all the way over to the kind of informal trailhead there off 128.
Yeah, so again, it's hard to tell, but that top one actually is going to be right on 128,
Okay,
and that bottom one is actually in the refuge.
gotcha. But the bottom one looks like it's a dead end.
That's what they're showing.
Okay. I just
It-
wondered because they had talked about an underpass
Yeah.
at one point.
Yeah, so that underpass is still right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that dead end seems weird, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long way to get into that.
And I've got to
building.
think that they're not going to
Yeah.
stay with this ultimately. I mean, you've got to think that eventually
Sure.
there's going to be a connection. Now, one thing that did happen between our last meeting and right now is Fish and Wildlife Services held a meeting over at the rec center in the Candelas neighborhood, which is that new development right over by Rocky Flats. And they're more or less trying to get public outreach to help design what the trails will look like. So they're trying to get buy-in for the most part and actually make the community feel like they're a part of this. My get, and they have additional meetings scheduled. That wasn't the one and only. So
I saw one in Broomfield, I believe.
Broomfield sent it out, but it was over at Candelas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw the same Broomfield advertisement, and then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, this isn't even in Broomfield.
Not even close.
Yeah. So there'll be more. I'm guessing that will change the alignment, and I'm sure somebody during those meetings will say, hey, it doesn't make sense for this not to connect. So expect more changes as we go forward. I know Sandy's staying on top of this, but we'll basically just continue to monitor it, and if something completely weird happens, we'll make a recommendation to the board to let them know.
I mean, from an OSAC standpoint, there's really nothing that's like in our court, right? I mean, St. Francis Trail is on private property. It's L3 property, correct?
Yep. And our biggest concern is really just to make sure that they don't get rid of a way around. As long as we still have a way to avoid Rocky Flats if need be. And honestly, the St. Francis connection makes a lot of sense because that builds even more connectivity for our residents to regional trails. So I think our biggest goal is just to keep our eye on that specific trail, that their alignment they're proposing, and make sure it doesn't disappear.
So for that, through level 3 though, would it be getting permission from level 3, or would it be trying to purchase that land from them, or how would that?
I guess it's probably the easement.
They've talked about an easement. Right now, everything is still in the very preliminary phase. They've got budget estimates for what it would take. For the St. Francis Trail specifically, they have made a note that it's not a well-maintained trail and would likely need some maintenance.
I mean, it's definitely pretty steep and pretty rutted through there.
Yeah, and I think what
I mean, I like it, but I'm also not riding my bike.
I think what I read in it, in this specific one, was that they might have to extend the width of it to about 10 feet as well to make it compliant with the standards they're trying to reach. So there'd be
cool.
additional costs.
Yeah. Who would pay for that? Would it be us or would it be them?
It would not be us.
Okay,
I think
Cool.
those are all like federal funds, right?
Yep.
Like,
Cool.
or I guess state too, there's Plains to Peaks Trail, which is part of this initiative.
Oh yeah. There's like 10 different major trails in Colorado they're trying to put together with both federal and state funding. I'm not exactly sure what the funding looks like for this one, but yeah, it wouldn't be our funds.
cool.
I think that was it on this. Shall we get the lights? The next topic is wildlife enhancements and encouragement opportunities. This is really just kind of a brainstorming type agenda item. This came from our work plan. We added it last year, and it was kind of a holdover from several years past as well. Even before me joining the committee like 3 years ago or so, there had been discussion about trying to bring more wildlife back into Superior and the surrounding areas. When I joined, they were talking about trying to get the pronghorned antelope back in the area. I think that one kind of lost steam, but where we left it last year was reaching out to
the Audubon Society to see if we could do anything with them over at the newly refilled reservoir. Sean's not here tonight. He was going to follow up with that. I don't know if he ever did, but beyond that, is there anything anybody here can think of that we'd want to start exploring for bringing more wildlife back into the area, or other ideas?
Do we know what is, or what was native to the area, other than maybe the antelope?
That's all that I was ever made aware of. We had talked about a long time ago reaching out to a environmental expert and talking to them about what was native and what could start populating, and we kind of got to the point where we said, okay, that's going to cost money. Do we want to go down that route? And it died.
Yeah.
So the low-hanging fruit was like maybe the Audubon Society, and I think that was it. So this is something we certainly, if we wanted to take it the next step, we could go that route and actually talk to a professional and figure out if there are real options. I think we actually do have some budget left over, although I don't know if we'd be able to use that. We might have to go through the board.
It seems like the most natural fit would be the Audubon Society first, and see what they have to say, maybe.
I think what might make sense is, since there's so few of us here, I can reach out to Sean and see if he's done anything with that, and we can just bring this back during our next meeting, when hopefully more of us are here.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing around, pronghorn and bigger animals is sometimes you bring in something native, and then you bring in the predator that's big enough,
Yep.
up the food chain to eat that animal, which can have unintended consequences at times.
It's true. Well, and evidently they used to be here in great numbers, and then I think there was Rocky Flats, actually. That area was their primary grounds, but...
Which, I mean, I kind of wonder if they're going to reintroduce a bunch into Rocky Flats, which will help reintroduce them to our area regardless. I mean...
Yep.
Maybe twice the size as they should be, too.
Yeah, glowing.
Glowing.
Extra prongs.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll just table this for the next meeting and hopefully have some more updates that we can run with when we have that conversation. That brings us to updates and look-aheads. Allison, you want Nature at Night Song Dogs?
So Song Dogs this Saturday, 5:30 to 6:30 is full. Registration is full. People are excited about it. I haven't been marketing it this week since we are full. I didn't want people to, get the marketing and say, hey, I can't get into the program.
Yep.
So that's going great.
Excellent.
The next one, Snakes Alive, we had approximately 65 people.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Patricia came out, Sean came out, we had the mayor there, and it was great. That guy is Jim with the Snakes Conservancy. He's a wonderful presenter. We had people kind of sit up on the natural amphitheater kind of behind the pavilion, and he was under the pavilion with his tables. So that was really nice. We had people bring chairs and blankets, and we didn't really need any seating out there because, there's a gentle slope up into the open space. So it was a really nice spot to have it. Even thinking about National Trails Day, it's a pretty nice slope and it's nice and shady under that pavilion. I don't know if the group would want to do anything with that, but that setup worked really well.
Nice.
65 sounds like a good turnout.
Yeah, our max was, I had it maxed at 70.
So it's perfect.
It was great. It was a beautiful day. He had lots of snakes to pass around. The kids loved it. I mean, it's just a winner.
Yeah,
It's a real
we were
winner.
signed up. My son was quite upset that we didn't get to go. I had a friend who offered a condo in the mountains, and I was like, no, that trumps snakes. He told me all weekend that he wanted to go to it next time, and I said, I bet they'll have it again. So.
I think that's definitely something we'll have to keep doing. We've had great turnout with that guy both times now, and
He's just a great presenter, and he has all these animals, and the kids get to hold them. I mean, it's.
Mhm.
But then it's a good educational thing for this area. I mean,
Yeah.
Snakes are just a fact of life around here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So board activity. At Monday's board meeting, there was a FDP for the Parks 1 and 2 over at Superior Town Center. It did not go through. The price tag on that ended up being over $6 million. The board in the past has given direction to not have the committees focus on dollar values of things. That way we can try to design something that's optimal. For parks in the past, there's usually been a step in between what's perfect and the final part where we actually pare it down to make it more realistic, and that didn't necessarily happen. Plus there was some confusion on the board level and between the developer about the actual funding for that. To make it a long story short, the actual construction still might not happen for 3, 4, maybe even 5 years because the developer would be using money through bond revenue that would be coming in from businesses and development in the town center, which is currently empty, so he'd have to be waiting for that. So there's a lot of hurdles, but basically both the board and the developer agreed to withdraw the FDP, and it's going to come back down. Definitely a pro stack probably to us to look at for ways to reduce the costs or other possible ideas. So stay tuned.
I mean, do they have a suggested target? I mean, does it need to be 3 million or?
I mean, a few of the trustees kicked out numbers like 4 or 5 million, something like that total, but all of it was just kind of off the cuff, and I think there's other things that need to be figured out first. So I don't know exactly what the next steps will be. I'm guessing the town manager will probably work with Allison and Patrick and the town board and figure out that, and we'll kind of stay tuned for what our role will be. The other part, I went and spoke to the board on Monday about our idea for the Shan Shan Trailhead and creating some type of access at the roundabout that's being put in at the Rogers Farm. There was interest with that idea, and more or less where that landed was the town manager said that this is something that they can talk to the Rogers Farm developer about and see if we can figure out some way to integrate that to see if that'd be an optimal solution. So sounds like that's being run with, and again, we'll stay tuned and provide input as needed.
I think that's the right approach. I stared at that thing a lot of times this past month, and
Yeah.
I think you have the right idea there.
It'd be great to have it at the top, but you're just,
Yeah.
it's steep, right in, right out. There's a lot of challenges right there.
It's not even a flat area. You'd have to fill it in or
Mhm.
carve it out. You'd have to do a lot of work to get in at that top.
Yep. So it'll take some cooperation with the developer to make this happen, but it'd be great if it worked. All right. We already talked about the November meeting. The Coal Creek Crossing Trail. I was going to try to go over and look at that. Allison, do you know if that really is that in right now?
So what's happened is
Actually, real quick, does everybody know what we're talking about? The Coal Creek Crossing Trail?
Over here.
Yeah, the one over behind the Remington development.
the development that's across the street from Founders Park.
Yeah, we had talked about 2 trails that were initially supposed to go over there, and it got whittled down to 1 earlier this year.
So what's happened is the subdivision has completed their leg of the soft surface trail south of the homes. And the town is going to be working with Morris and Associates on the design for the final trail connection to Single Tree Trail. So it only goes so far, and then the rest of it has to be designed.
I thought that entire trail was going to be designed by Remington.
I remember seeing it come up
That-
a little short.
What's happening is the county is gonna need time to review designs for the trail, and that the rest of the trail is gonna require a modification to an improved management plan for Boulder County.
Oh, that's right. The Marshall Valley, whatever, that large management plan that encompasses this entire area.
So probably, the design would be submitted sometime next year.
So right now, residents can walk out of that subdivision to a certain point and then have to turn around and walk back?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Which probably means there's a social trail developing.
I'm sure. Well, I drove back there and I was trying to find exactly where it was, and there's.
Well, there's a gate, I mean, there's, you know, I think there's like a gate that has barbed wire across it, maybe like a fence back there.
And I couldn't tell if that was actually, because it looked like it went nowhere, so I was like, oh, that can't be it.
It's the developer's portion of the trail until it hits property that is not theirs.
Again, Ken, what was the change to that plan? Was it the Boulder County, like, regional trail plan?
Yeah, Marshall was in it. Is the Marshall Valley management plan or something like that? But that plan more or less just dictates what Boulder County will and will not do in this area. And since that wasn't in the plan, they have to amend it to put it in.
I want to say it's Marshall Mesa.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. The Marshall Superior Colton Trail
Oh,
Corridor Management Plan.
That's it.
All the buzzwords.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
I think we have it sent out in one of our emails, which I can resend it if the group would like.
Okay.
to.
Scroll back down just a little bit. No, that's mitigation. I thought.
Yeah, these are our old documents that we've kind of.
So has Loris already been contracted with to design it, and they're designing it now, or have they already provided a design?
Looks like, the information I have is the town will be working with Loris and Associates on the design for the final trail connection. So I'm assuming either they're already working on it or have been tasked
Okay.
with the job.
Would it be possible for us to see that design once they've finished with it?
I'm assuming has the group been tasked with it from the board?
We spoke with the board about it when all of this originally happened, and we were verbally tasked with it, but that was during public comment in one of the board meetings when they said, yeah, OSAC and ProStac can work to develop a trail design.
Okay.
We're kind of involved in the alignment and
Exactly.
the thought process behind it, but
Yep.
I don't remember any actions on it since that point when they decided, let's go ahead and put it in.
No, my recollection was that we were actually waiting to hear from the developer what they were going to propose, and we were going to give them feedback. So,
I thought that group might have given a recommendation for not having the spur along the wetland and having this single trail. I kind of recall it. I could.
that was our recommendation.
Yeah.
The recommendation,
That is
yeah.
the alignment that,
Well, our recommendation was actually not to do the trail at all. We thought it was duplicative.
Then we had kind of a fallback of, if you do it, put it kind of on the southwest corner of that property directly
fence
out.
side.
to avoid the wetlands that were on the south side.
Yeah.
And I think that's the alignment that's basically been approved.
Yeah, and at that, during the board meeting where all that was discussed, the board basically said, okay, well, we hear OSAC's concerns. Make sure you guys are involved in the trail design to make sure that whatever you were concerned about is as mitigated as much as possible.
I'll definitely put it in our notes that the OSAC would like to review, or
That-
OSAC discuss the desire to review
That sounds good.
It's better now to have a look at it and say it looks great than have them start building it in a place we don't like, right?
Yeah. All right. And then we have a few other things that aren't on our agenda that I just wanted to mention. Ryan's been putting together a kind of a project that documents all of the different trails that we review each year and trying to create a history of why they have moved up, down, any comments we have. That way we kind of have a running historical document. That way we don't lose our decisions year after year. So he's got a great draft together. Patricia and I are looking at it and filling in historical knowledge now, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll have something that is pretty darn complete. So that'll be great for next year.
I was thinking we should add maybe even the Shan Shan bullet here that has actually moved to the town manager to look at it.
Oh, yep.
Or not, I'm sorry, maybe the town manager wasn't, but just that they're, that that's moving along, and then even this Coal Creek piece might, maybe want to add that. Maybe it's too much detail, but since you guys are working on it, I'll let you make that call.
Right now I've only been looking what's in there. The next step is actually look at anything else that needed to go in, and I think those are things we can definitely enter.
And feel free to email me if you want some of our old 5-year trail plans. Probably find them in the notes under our OSAC page, and then meeting notes under all of those. But if you can't have any trouble, feel free.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Just go back and rewatch 5 years of videos. Right?
Yeah. When you got a free day or so.
We haven't been recording them that long.
Oh, that's true. We just all sit right over there. Another thing is there's a committee open house on October 27th. I anticipate that we're going to have a full committee again before then, so it's not necessarily imperative that we have representation there. I found out that I'll have to be on a business trip, so I won't be able to attend. So if anybody wants to be there,
October 26th?
7th.
27th.
Yep. Basically, there's usually a representative from most of the committees, and 1 or 2 people from the public might show up, and you're more or less just sitting around, hanging out, talking to the other committee members while we're here. But again, I'll shoot out an email to everybody if we don't have a full committee by then, and it would be nice if we had everyone there or someone there. And then finally, we're getting to the time of year where we need to start talking about the 2017 work plan. That'll be on our agenda for the coming months to decide what we want to tackle next year. So just start thinking about anything that you might want added to the work plan that we didn't do this year, or any other big projects, or pretty much anything at all. This is the time to get it on there, because we're not supposed to really deviate from the work plan once it gets approved by the board. Something I've been thinking about is we haven't done a full-blown review of potential open space acquisitions in a long time. I think our document that last looked at that was dated maybe 10 years ago or so. So that might be an ambitious goal we tackle next year, but that's just something I've been kicking around. So just keep in the back of your mind. That way we can have good conversation at our next meeting. I think that was it. Sandy, we pretty much breezed through everything.
Sorry I'm late.
Ah.
Any questions for me? You went through the Coal Creek corridor and the segregation from the rest of the parks and that development?
So I didn't go into that piece in detail. I more or less just let everyone know that the FDP didn't go through, that there was questions about both the money, the timing, and I didn't get into the corridor money versus the FDP money at all, if you want to touch on.
Okay, well, I may be repeating some of
No,
what you
please.
said. So we had a very engaged debate, I would say, on Monday night about Parks 1 and 2. And the Coal Creek corridor sort of emerges as a whole separate entity. And the reason that's very good for you guys is because you've been the chief proponents since 2013 of treating the Coal Creek corridor with respect it deserves. In the original plans, nothing was going to happen to the Coal Creek corridor in the town center. The developer said it's not our thing, and we'll build up to it, but really sort of uninterested. And so this committee has been pushing for a very, beautiful, integral Coal Creek corridor at that edge, at, what is it, North Edge? The town center, and directionally challenged.
Yep, North Edge.
Somewhat like Boulder Creek is to downtown Boulder. And it's taken a lot of work and a lot of dogged effort, and that has prevailed. And even though there are problems with Parks 1 and 2, the attitude of the board was that we will segregate the effort at Coal Creek, and we will continue on it along the plans. We will do it in 2017 along the plans that this group helped define.
Yep, and there's money set aside in the budget for that.
$1.5 million comes out of the open space fund, and it's a
Yeah.
valid expenditure of that open space fund to make that a gem. And whatever happens in Parks 1 and 2 will tie into that. And that's, I think, a huge, huge accomplishment by this group. Without this group, it would never have happened, and it's something really to be proud of. And I really encourage you to keep on top of that every step of the way.
Mhm.
I've asked that the budget for that, which is line item by line item by line item, come back to this committee, and you get to review that to see if it is in keeping with what your intent was. And so that should be coming back to you in the next couple of meetings. It apparently was available, and I'm not sure why it didn't come to the board on Monday, but the itemized costs of the Parks 1 and 2 came forth, and they were very expensive.
Mhm.
And the fact that they can't be built for 3 years means that, time value of money and increased construction costs and everything are even going to be more expensive in 2 or 3 years. And what is driving what's sort of the umbrella limitation in those parks is this agreement the town board put into the authorizing documents of up to $10 million out of the TIF will be spent on parks and civic space. And sort of a rough number of $4 million was put towards the park and $6 million towards the open space. Well, this estimate just for those 2 parks, 2 out of what will probably be 4 parks, came in at $7.3 or $7.4 million. And then if you look at the time value of money and inflation and construction costs 3 years down the road, that easily could be $10 million for those 2 parks. And the board sort of cried foul and said, whoa.
Yep.
And I asked the question, well, does the $10 million amount have an escalator on it? Because that was in 2013 dollars. Oh, no, it didn't. I'm very disappointed. Frankly, there are a million moving parts at the time we did all these documents, but I'm disappointed that we didn't have an escalator on that $10 million, because we should have had an escalator on it. The logic is, well, there's no escalator on the $140 million for $109 million of the TIF. So, but still, we are not delaying that.
Mhm.
We want it done now. The developers wanting that, so I suspect there's going to be some interesting debate over time, especially when we're going to have 3 new trustees here in a month. So that gives a lot of new energy and new ideas and all that. So I suspect that's going to be looked at. But kudos to this group for really, it wasn't always a pretty effort, and took a lot of repeat attempts. And I think you guys accomplished what you wanted to accomplish.
No, one thing that wasn't necessarily clear, and I was confused on, is we'll continue to move forward with the creek enhancements, but now it's going to be several years probably before the parks are built. So are we going to make this creek this nice, beautiful thing that nobody can access for those several years?
But we cannot delay it because urban drainage is going to put in some money towards it. This is this regional effort.
Yep.
And there is still money to be had potentially from the flood mitigation efforts that happened after the, when was that flood?
2013?
Yeah, so we can't, if we hold it for 3 years, we lose out on some of these potential revenue sources and stuff like that. So my attitude is take it while you can get it, and so I'm glad the board decided that. And then about the, you went over, I saw here, the Greenway Trail, that continues to be a work in progress, and I'm really happy to say that this alternative route is still alive and well in the final draft. I did call those people a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, the sampling protocol that is mandated by the 6 towns that are participating in the funding for over and underpasses, that has not started yet because I'm trying to get Superior at the table, even though we did not authorize that funding. Certainly we are an affected community. And nobody's met yet on it, so I'll keep dogging that effort. But, you know, in your broad charter, that's part of it.
Yep.
And I'm totally with Ken, what I heard you say. When you go through your work plan, you really need to, this is a definitional document of how you want to impact this town. And it's very task oriented, and if it's not on the work plan, you have to ask for it to be added to the work plan. So for you to have a thorough approach to that as you think about what you want to accomplish in 2017 is really important. That's all.
Real quick, Sandy, on the parks, another thing I wasn't 100% clear is the next step is going to be, from what I did gather, is going to be try to winnow down the price tag of it and figure out if there is a way to
Well, the point I brought up at the very end there, this park discussion went all over the place.
Yeah. It was hard to see where it finally ended because
And because, frankly, you know, your documents when you're a trustee are not necessarily all inclusive. So these discussions are sort of organic, right? And they go where they go. But I found myself at the last part of that meeting where we were facing, why do we pull out of those parks, right? And the little red flag went off in my head. ProStaff did a exceptional job. I don't know if you know that the school parcel, the consideration of what to put in that park and whether to build the park and how to build it and all that, took 6 years.
Yep.
And which one can say was too long. But they came up with a wonderful master plan. But a price tag sort of arbitrarily was applied to it at $4 million, and the board said, no way. We cannot, as a town, spend $4 million on a park. So, and that is just a guess by the designers of the park. They have no economies of scale, there are no efficiency, cost efficiencies, It's just they take every item that they put in. You know, if the swing set's gonna be 50 grand, and a pad for a swing set's 20 grand. So it is perceived as the highest it can go, right? It's the most conservative, the highest price, etc. But rather than let that get bid out by construction specialists, we
Mhm.
actually put the park in as the next step. The board chose to pull amenities out. And in it, we really eroded that inspired vision for that park. And so at the time, and then when we got the construction estimate, the edict of the board was cut it down to $3 million, right?
Mhm.
Cut it 25%. Well, when the $3 million was bid, after we pulled all this stuff out, I believe that number came in at 2.2 million.
Can add things back in.
Right? And then we're saying, oh, add it back in. Well, if we had started at the $4 million inspired vision, I think that would only come in at 3.2. And maybe we would have found that extra $200,000 to have this really inspired park. Now, the park's looking pretty dang good, I have to say. No complaints. But so I threw that in at the table and going,
Yep.
whoa, before we start tearing this apart, because Matrix came into this late in the game, and they really put together an exciting vision for Parks 1 and 2 and how it integrated the town center, and really beautiful. So rather than start tearing it apart, we were this far from this, let's go back to Pro Snack and let them take amenities out, take the seating out, take the, I said, well, let's go to construction estimates based on this and see just where it falls.
Okay, so do you think that is going to be the next step? Are we going to get the construction
I
estimates
hope.
then? Okay.
That's where I believe we left it since
Okay.
I was the last speaker.
And
But,
I wasn't sure if that was like actually formally like the way it was going to end, or
yeah,
okay.
Well, I hope. I hope, because why pull out if in fact you've got a 25% fudge factor in there anyway,
Mhm.
right? So let's see, because you pull out any one of those beautiful things and you really rewrite that.
Well, and my concern too is, I mean, I know the parks are typically Pro Stacks turf, but I mean, because the creek goes right through it, we kind of have a hand in this. So if anything does end up getting adjusted, I just want to make sure the OSAC
Right,
continues to play a role.
I'll make sure, and Allison will make sure that you get that back to you guys. Yeah, because the Coal Creek is gonna be done first.
Yep.
Everything's gotta tie into it.
Exactly.
That's what I asked. You know, how do we do this? But the good news about it is, to the extent, it will probably help to find some aspects of Park 1 and 2, because they're already beginning.
Yep.
right? So, I'm pleased that aspect is going forward. And it is, it's a huge accomplishment.
Perfect.
Any other general trustee questions? Does anybody watch those meetings?
I do.
Okay.
Also, our November meeting is going to be on our regular day, but at the community room.
Good, excellent. Yeah, just so.
Yep. Yeah.
Maybe
And
the restaurant will be open. You can do something afterwards.
yeah.
I was in there the other day, and it doesn't look like
No
it's
hope.
even started. It's just a shell.
Okay.
I mean, that was just on Saturday, so it doesn't look very close.
They've got a month to do it.
Is that the deadline?
Well, that's when we'll be there.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sandy, the only other thing I mentioned from the board perspective was talking about Shan Shan and a potential trailhead.
Well, I have to compliment you again on that. You are keeping it in front of the board. You got it in front of, you put it in front of the board, and you're keeping it in front of the board, and it's really being talked about. And that's how these things happen, you know?
Oh, and it sounds like Matt and staff will talk with Rogers Farm developers and see if it's a possibility to get some type of access through there. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, right, and that was a really good catch, you know, because if there aren't eyes that see these things and whatever, and they don't bring them forth, it's possible that access would never even been thought of until it was too late. So
Mhm.
I was really appreciative
think that was all I had. So, anybody else have anything?
And go back to my thing.
All right. We are adjourned.
You can.
What is it?
It's a meet the candidate thing in Waterford, right down the street.
Ah.
Yeah. So all the candidates for trustee.
What's the high-level schedule for the development across the street? You know, what's next?
25 years.
See you later.
You never know what's next.
You're such an optimist.
I sat in that same old seat, Matt, that you were sitting in, you know, when we had to meet in 2015, and had to rush through every decision, because this was gonna just take off like wildfire, so it hasn't. And, you know, the Main Street, the brickwork on Main Street is done, the roundabout, slowly we're getting these things done. We have, off Main Street to the right is Promenade Drive, and it's a series of multi-family townhouses and that kind of stuff. The town board has approved that. We approved the FDP for the hotel, you know, which is where the old Golden Valley House is, so slowly. And it is a big, ambitious project. You know, when you look at that land undeveloped, it's like, you can't build a whole lot on this, but we're building a huge thing on that. And, you know, so as the candidates all said tonight, I heard their opening statements, and it's true. We need to retain the vision. You know, what is this town's vision? And so.
A lot of FDP over the next 3
Yeah,
4 years.
so there'll be an election 2 years from now, and you guys can all run and be the advocates for that, you know?
So how many people are running for the 3 open spots? 'Cause
9.
As I say, I count the signs around the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and they're increasing all the time.
Yeah, and a bunch of people don't have signs
There's
up.
a reason or two that don't have the signs up either.
So,
Yeah.
what's his name, Jerry,
Malley,
yeah, I talked to him, he said he doesn't have budget for it, so he's going around, but I saw one for him up by pool, up by the.
Yeah, I haven't seen any by him, and there's that Narayan Trust, who doesn't have any signs. He's not at that thing either. Yeah, he sort of runs every time. But yeah, the candidates are doing a nice job, and, you know, as in my election, 2 of us were up for election in the mayor, so I guess that makes 3. But for 3 to be term limited just seems, it's a great opportunity to get on the board.
So is that why there's 3 open spots, people hit
Are term
term?
limited.
I didn't know that, I didn't know if they just.
Yeah,
you were
it just so
retired
happens,
from it.
that's why on your committees, we try to stagger, so that you always keep a certain level of experience, because it's hard to start over, but with 3 changing, we have 4 old, experienced folk, and most of the people running have some planning commission or other committee experience. You know, Patricia's running, and she's had 3.5 years of OSAC, and Sammy's running, she's got 4.5 years or 5 years of
3 or 4
post
planning
staff,
commissioners.
and, you know, planning commissions are varying tenures. So keep it up and aspire, you know.
Big thing is find extra time.
Outward and onward. Yeah. I'm good because I have grown kids.
That's exactly what I thought when you said I could do it, so I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
One meeting a month is tough for me to make.